Hey Access, Eric here. So we are continuing our study of spiritual disciplines, and this week we are looking at prayer. So first off, why is prayer important? Why do we need to pray? It's not just trying to get stuff from God, right? It's more about having a relationship with God. And just like we don't want our kids to only come talk to us when they need something from us, or they need money, or for us to fix something. No, we want to have a close relationship with them. And I'm sure many of us are consistent with praying, and whether that is at mealtime or at bedtime or with our kids. But prayer is a discipline, and to have quality prayers, it requires discipline and training on our part. Oftentimes I find myself with my prayers getting kind of stale. I'm praying the same thing at mealtime. I'm praying the same thing at bedtime with my kids, and it's turned into more of a box to be checked off. But it's not always like that. There are times when I'm more devoted to prayer, and usually those are the times when things are not going well. And but I think in those moments that wouldn't it be nice to just be consistent no matter what my circumstances are. It's like the difference between studying the night before a final and studying consistently throughout the semester. And that's why prayer is a discipline. So for this video, I wanted us to look at how Jesus instructs us to pray by breaking down the Lord's Prayer, and that's found in Matthew 6 verses 9 through 13, and it reads as follows: "This then is how you should pray. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one." So first off, notice how in verse 9, so some translations say pray like this. And so Jesus is saying that, we shouldn't just recite this prayer, but rather he's modeling how we should pray and what elements of prayer should be included. So when looking at the elements of prayer, I've heard of a few different acronyms. One is ACTS, A-C-T-S, which stands for adoration, confession, thanksgiving, and supplication, where supplication is just asking God for things. Sometimes I hear the word intercession used also. That's more like asking God to intervene on someone else's behalf. But ACTS keeps it kind of simple. So in context with the Lord's Prayer, notice how it starts: "Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name." So the word hallowed means to exalt or be placed first or on top. So he's saying God is the greatest. Jesus is saying to start our prayers with adoration. So does that mean we always need to be starting our prayers with adoration? I don't really know. Perhaps, but I think it shouldn't be a legalistic thing. And the bigger thing that Jesus is getting at is that we should have the right mindset and the right heart when we start our prayers. We shouldn't just start in with a list of things that we need God to give us and fix, but rather, when we come to God in prayer, we should first realize how amazing God is, and that we have access to him through prayer. So then it continues: "Your kingdom come, your will be done." It's yearning for God's kingdom, for the world to be set right, and also desiring God's will over our will. Again, it's placing God first when we're praying. So then it gets into supplication and intercession in the next phrase: "Give us today our daily bread." It's getting us to realize our dependence on God for everything. everything in our lives, and to get us to focus on others' needs as well. Notice the prayer uses the words us and our, so that we're considering the needs of others. And then the next phrase, and forgive us our debts as we have forgiven our debtors. So that's getting into confession. And that's part of having an intimate relationship with God. So yes, we have been made legally right through faith, but just like when we have wronged a loved one, it's important for us to ask forgiveness and to mend that broken relationship, to reconcile. So lastly, the phrase, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. So here Jesus is telling us to ask for protection against temptation and deliverance from evil and sin. So once again, it's making a request of God, but it's also showing the power of prayer to combat sin in our lives. Now, you may notice that the element of thanksgiving isn't explicitly instructed in this prayer. I usually think of thanksgiving as just being thankful for what God has given to us. And so perhaps maybe there's an undertone of thanksgiving in this prayer, thankful that God is in control and that he's providing for us. And in other places in the Bible, there's many examples of Jesus thanking God, and for us, us being instructed to give thanks. So Thanksgiving is definitely one of those elements that should be as a part of our prayer. Okay, so those are all the elements of prayer. You can think of the acronym ACTS. So some of these are easier to implement than others. I know my weakness is adoration. I rarely include adoration in my prayers, but that's something I'm wanting to work on. So this week I would just encourage you to be thinking about what areas you could improve on in your prayer life, but also be thinking about what things work well for you, what sort of wisdom you can share with the rest of the group. All right, well, that's all I had. Thanks, guys. Bye.